Join us on Path of Faith, where we delve deep into the heart of spirituality, offering insights and inspiration to illuminate your path towards a deeper connection with God.
Tree, which during that time I was there didn't encourage me much. She remained very weak, very petatina. And after many years, almost 20 years later, I come back. Almost not 20 years later, I returned to the seminary of Labrasa. And the first thing I wanted to do was go where was the blessed tree I liked so much, and that I had a desire to see growing. And what was my surprise? That tree was huge, beautiful. I was so thrilled with a little and silly thing that I spoke so much to my heart. Because in that tree I identified precisely this patience we need to have with the time of waiting. What I hope, may it be a big, showy tree. But I need to understand that she has a process. Life is like this, my people. And our anxieties are directly linked to this inability to allow each thing to grow in time. That life has rules. That even people have rules. Yesterday, a person asked me on Twitter, Father, what do I do with a friend I hurt and now I'm wanting to ask him for forgiveness? But he doesn't even want to receive me. Wait for his time. People have their time. It's no use wanting to break into his house and want him to listen to what he doesn't want to hear now. Life is like this. Sooner or later, these ties fall. You will look again naturally to the other. Forgiveness happens naturally. Now, if you force, you risk further harming what you want to happen. And that is why even the commitment to the realization of the dream has to go through moderation. Everything in life, my people, is a matter of balance. There is that song that Layla Pinheiro. Everything is a matter of moment. Then she is talking, keeping the spine straight, the heart quiet. The song she sings speaks precisely from this. The need you have to keep the plumb, to maintain the balance, that you dose well the past, the present, and the future. For you to live well. We are not naive to think that we can live only from the present out. That would be to limit human experience. I'm not a fan of limiting human experience. I think the more we can qualify the human experience, the better. So that the qualified human being is the one who is in the present time with the ability to look at his past with wisdom and also look with hope for his future. And then you identify that what you want lacks time to mature. It would be so much better if we all knew how to live these waits right. It would be so much more interesting if we could have the ability to wait for the other, or to identify the time to advance, or the time to stop, to wait, or even to get back a little. That life is like this, my people. Sometimes when you go too much, you risk entering territories that are not yet yours. And then it causes strangeness to yourself. How many times have I lived this? My anxiety led me to occupy a place that was not yet to me. It could even be in the future. But it wasn't yet. It was not the exact moment. And because I wanted to advance, I ended up hurting the realization of that dream. The realization of that sphere. So live, Lina. Live the spheres, period. And you know how to identify what is God's desire for you. Pay close attention to your gift and see what in this gift you can already do to anticipate your future or to prepare your hopes. If I am jealous, that harms me in my relationships. I am jealous of my children. I am jealous of my friends, my husband, my wife, boyfriend, girlfriend. Why? Because she deprives us to live the good of the relationship. We know by the most B that where there is jealousy, there is no peace. The person is not quiet. She's all the time there wanting to find out she can. This is not peace. The good of the relationship is when you establish a relationship of trust. I always had this with my mother, for example. I never watched my jealousy in my mother since little boy. And I find it beautiful that she has a great generosity that makes her feel happy every time she sees someone loves me and takes care of me. Unlike some mothers. who has a real dread of thinking that someone can do for his son what she is not doing. This is selfishness, so it's a sin. My jealousy can make me a selfish person, because instead of rejoicing what the other is receiving, because it is not me who am giving, then it is not good, not good. Start by defect. I start to curse that person just because she's doing for someone I love. I can't. Or even because at that moment, I am not present. So see how sin can be a source of sin. Or rather, see how jealousy can be a source of sin. Because he can make us assume selfish postures. I'm jealous of my friends, so I get upset great enough for that person to the point of rejoicing at her joys. Glad she's having other friends beyond me. Glad she is able to celebrate life with other people, and I keep having my place. So, because of jealousy, we build a home of sin, which is selfishness. The jealousy itself is not even sinful if you think. Jealousy is an immediate reaction that we can have, which is the result of our insecurity, of our fear, which can put us in insecurity about that person. But this can become sin. Suddenly, I'm jealous of my friend with that other person. What I'll do, I will enhance that other person to feel comfortable with the jealousy I have, so I think I am right. I will start putting that person in a devilish perspective. Oh, why? I am jealous of my friend, so I will enhance his other friends, invent stories, say that that person did it, did that. All because we want to tear that friend of ours from that new friendship. This is very common in mothers who start putting 1,000 flaws in generating, or on the daughters that boys and girls start dating. Because we are insecure, we are afraid of losing our children. So, this sin, it begins like this. With a natural feeling in way. If we do not, sometimes, because we are moved by anxieties that predeterminate us, we transform what the other told us in what we would like to hear. Why do we do this, right? Sometimes the other tells us something, and our anxiety is so great that we have already transformed what the other tells us about what we would like to hear, or what we would imagine that the other would tell us, which is also a mistake, that we put the other inside a prison by preventing him from being who he is, and even saying what he says. Our understanding cheats on us. That is why it takes a lot of discernment, a lot of lucidity, so that we do not feed within us these vicious processes to transform what the other told us in what we would like to hear. A person in love, for example, tends to read, listening to everything the other says, everything the other writes, from what is interested in thinking, as if it were a form of protection, right? Is that what the person wants so much will not crumble with reality, with the inadjured, and it builds that sand of sand, dreams, and everything the other writes she thinks is for her, and everything the other says she thinks it was for her. Careful, the other has the right to say many things, and that is not for us. We don't sit in anyone's center of the world. It is very pretentious. Much has happened this in my life. Being a public man, how many times I publish, write texts, phrases, and the person thinks I'm sending a message. My God, with the opportunity, I have to say what I say to so many people. I who value so much for telling the truth to those who need to hear. Why am I going to use a social network to send a message to someone? What may happen is that according to a fact, as a consequence of that event, I was upset and reflected on it. I write a while later. I don't even like to write too close to the event so as not to give this impression. But no, the other has the right to know in the most direct way. So everything we need to say, we need to say. But then let's stop imagining that the other is saying this or that. Let us allow the word to tell us the truth. Only the truth. Nothing more than the truth. And what we imagine, what we are anxious, that all this falls apart. so that the other can tell us what he really said, and not what we would like to hear. Sometimes, because we are moved by anxieties that predetermine us, we transform what the other told us about what we would like to hear. Why do we do that? It is so common. Sometimes the other tells us something, and our anxiety is so great that we have already transformed what the other tells us about what we would like to hear. Or else, our understanding cheats on us. That is why it takes a lot of discernment, a lot of lucidity, so that we do not feed within us these vicious processes to transform what the other told us in what we would like to hear. A person in love, for example, tends to read, listening to everything the other says, everything the other writes, from what is interested in thinking, as if it were a form of protection, right? So that what the person wants so much will not crumble with reality and builds that castle of sand, dreams, and everything the other writes she thinks for her, and everything the other says she thinks it was for her. Careful. The other has the right to say many things. We don't sit in anyone's center of the world. It is very pretentious. This has happened a lot in my life. Being a public man, how many times have I published, right? Texts, phrases, and the person thinks I'm sending a message. Oh my God! With the opportunity I have to say what I say to so many people, I who value so much for telling the truth to those who need to hear, because I will use a social network to send message to someone. What may happen is that according to a fact, as a consequence of that event, I was upset and reflected on it. I write a while later. I don't even like to write too close to the event so as not to give this impression. But not. You have the right to know in the most direct way. So everything we need to say, we need to say. But then, let's stop imagining that the other is saying this or that. Let the word let us tell us the truth. Only the truth. Nothing more than the truth. And that we imagine. Because we are anxious that all this falls apart so that the other can tell us what he really said and not what we would like to hear. Because we have so much anxiety and because we even fear waiting. Guys, the wait is undoubtedly a moment in life when we risk thinking that we are not living. Which is, as I said there, the wait she contextualizes between the past and the future, isn't it? Because I'm here at my present moment, but my heart is stuffed with waiting. How can I make these waits in my favor? How do I do not live the present moment, full of situations that make me wait and that make me lose the bond with the story? With the present moment, this is precisely the moment I start working on what I expect. It may seem strange that, right? Is this going to build the wait? How am I going to work on what I hope? I look at what I expect and discover what I hope can be done today. Because happiness does not fall from heaven. Isn't that how we learn from a young age? That if we want to be happy, do we have to run after? So it is. Every day, what we expect can start to happen through a gesture. Something you can help realize hopes. And I know that within mystical religious language, we often expect. We say that, I hope in God. As the music of Eliana Ribeiro, Wait in the Lord. How do we expect in the Lord? Realizing in my life now what God gives me so that I can accomplish. Funny, I give this as a testimony of mine. I never went to run far behind things, but I knew how to enjoy every opportunity that was given to me. Of course, am I anxious? I am naturally anxious. If I could, I wanted the trees in my house to be all the size of this studio here. 10 meters high. I have difficulty planting one. Today, I was on the internet. I typed like this on Google. Trees that grow fast. And after I typed, I was laughing alone. I discovered a tree. Christian. That reaches 6 meters high in a year. Isn't that wonderful? It is the solution for my problems, because I like the tree. And if I could, I would reforest the world. Every place I see cut trees, I have sun, I suffer. And then I was laughing at my anxiety about wanting the trees to grow quickly. I wondered, My God in heaven. And this blessed tree that grows quickly. I saw that it is only for reforestation. Can I have one of these in my house? Will it not create these dangerous roots that will break the house of the whole neighborhood? Then I stayed there in my anxiety of wanting grown trees around me. Because I need green. I need life by my side. I need bird breaking down. I need it. That's why I like this rural life. I am modern, I am contemporary, alive in the city. But I confess that I like is the fields. And then I was there dealing with my anxiety and thinking, my God. But how can we reconcile what we want with what we already have? And then we pass. Then we have to enter the context of mercy. I need to have patience with other creatures that don't have the same speed as my dream. And this adaptation is a matter of maturity. We don't get it overnight, but it has to be a daily exercise. I need all the time to look at my tiny trees there and believe that they will grow. The other day, I even had a great joy. When I was a seminarian, I planted a tree at the Lavras Seminary. And for the 3 years I lived there in Lavras, I watered that tree religiously. I always gave a way to go there, connected a hose. Just her, the others not. Why? What did I identify? That my tree, the one I took a taste for her, that I had an identification with her, was the fragile of Al. And then I looked at that tree like a person needing, because I was always a little crazy like that. I even told me that I already found Combi a sad car, that my father had a van, that of the sad eyes, which I talked to her, which I explained to her that she was uglier than the other, who had the eyes more open. He says she was very special to us, so I was always a little crazy. I was talking to the cars my father had. I thought they were understanding everything I was saying, so I already had this habit of having to think there was a sensitivity there, that if I talked to her, she would be understood what I said. Everything up. So it said, look, you are weaker than the others, but I think it will work. You will grow. You will look beautiful. And I'm bringing the water here to help you. My posture was for almost 3 years, taking care and always looking at that. What moves me is not what I have already achieved from life. This is just a starting point. What you have already achieved in your life to this day is just a starting point. What moves you, this is what makes you wake up every day and run after. But it would be great if we started to realize that a time in life comes when it is not enough to run after what material is needed to run after dreams of realities that go beyond the matter, because you will come to a conclusion that that carbonito is not enough. That beautiful house is not enough. That beautiful house is not enough. That beautiful house is not enough. That wonderful apartment is not enough. Is here in the context of the absences, shouting for the need to have a white house. I wish I had in my life simply a place of green bush to plant and to harvest, have a white balcony house, a backyard and a window, just to see the sun rise. The project here is not a very grand thing. What ties this human being to life is just a white house. Interesting, this metaphor. It is the meaning of a well-lived life. Here, in the chorus of this song, it is the result of a well-lived life. Once I have faced all the difficulties of the stanza, I have the right to find in this world a place where I can feel cozy. Yesterday, when I was back from Campanagrate for João Pessoa for me to take the flight, observing those small towns along the way, those typical little houses of Paraíba there in the northeast, from the backlands, those simplest regions of the country, all very colorful small houses, but that makes you want to enter Antoste. They are specialists in cozy. I was thinking a lot about it. Sometimes we want so much to live. And suddenly a house like that with all this color on the outside, full of feeling inside, with people who love each other, and life is ready. Then I started thinking like this. Where do I warn myself? What reality in this life makes me feel comfortable? Where do we fit? What are the spaces that really accommodate us, snuggle us? When we will decorate our house, as simple as it is, something else you don't want, but to create a space where you feel cozy. The fourth, it can be the most beautiful room in the world. If it doesn't have the portrait of your soul, you don't snuggate into it. This is why the good architect is one who knows how to read the client's soul. Of course, he takes the scales, the customer's excesses, but puts him in a place that snuggles him. My house needs to have the aspects of my soul. And I asked me yesterday, where do I warn myself? Then I remembered not only from physical structures, because the house is not just a cluster of walls. The house, it is also a feeling. When I enter a place, immediately I feel if it causes me something good or something bad. The walls have soul, yes, of course, not the soul that I am used to treating. I, as a priest, read with the soul all the time. I am talking about what goes beyond matter, what transcends physical reality. A house is built from feelings and bricks. The house is also a feeling. When I go back to my house and it's that good feeling. When I open the door, when I enter, and find my reality, my warmth. So I understand that the house is feeling. Our spiritual life, my people, is in the service of creating this warmth. Because only in warmth do you face your discomfort well. If a person is not well, warm, affectionate, they will have a hard time dealing with the discomforts of the soul. Because these discomfort, they will always exist. There is no possibility of having a human person without identifying in her the discomfort that makes her stay alive. Create. Remove from you this illusion that is what you have to support you. No. What you have achieved in your life to this day is just the starting point. What moves him is what is still absent. Because I say that what feeds us is not what we have. What moves us is not what we have. Because what takes a human being ahead is the desire. Desire in the deepest sense. The vital element that keeps us stuck to life. That meaning without which we can't get up in the morning to work. We all have this vital elan. That as it is being worn out and is not renewed by us, aided by the grace of God, the presence of friends, those who love us, are these situations that are renewing our elan with the life. Are sowing with life. We are sown with life. If we do not renew this, we get depressed. We lose our desire to live, lacking meaning, right? Look at your absences. Look at what you don't have. You have had the opportunity to have so much in your life. You may have already been very successful. You may have had a lot of money. You may have already built a lot of materially speaking. Dare to look at what is not material now. Look around and see for yourself. Answer this question. Although they are in parts, even if they are not whole, what snuggles you in this life? What makes you have the feeling of being in the right place? What is the place where your soul rests quietly? Where you are able to manage what is absent you and keep a smile on your face? Because this is the big project, knowing that everything we have already achieved is almost nothing close to what we still need. Love never it will be perfect because it is an unfinished gesture. As much as I try with my attitude, with my posture, with my word, love those I love, my gesture will always be imperfect. But that's why it's beautiful. Because it is missing. In it, something is still absent. God's mystery in our lives is like this, my people. It is us to be able to look at the sad stanzas, to observe the happy chorus and realize that what will really do is not the moment the answers will come. Not the time when we are satisfied with life. No, the time when we are satisfied with life. What will accomplish us is this eternal dissatisfaction that keeps us harmonious. I'm going well. I'm doing well. Despite all of the difficulties, I'm going well. Because I'm projecting the construction of a White House where I can feel cozy. Only the sages are capable of this feat. Because sometimes we understand everything, but did not capture the enchantment of what you understood. The life of us is the same thing. So many times you don't understand what is going on. So many times you look at your heart, and he is a cluster of contradictory feelings, things that are even unknown to him. But why not recognize this beauty in all this? It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Every human process is always beautiful. Even if we have weaknesses, we are exposed in an indigence that shames us. Is beautiful. Life is always beautiful. Because there is an absence, the gesture is unfinished. It does not end. Is equal to art. You will never be able to find an artist satisfied with the work produced. You may be satisfied with what the artist produced, but he is no longer. Because if he has satisfied him to that work, what keeps him is not what he has already achieved from his possibilities. What keeps him alive, what keeps him artist, is what he has not yet been able to achieve from his creative process. The gesture is always unfinished. That expression of St. John of the Cross. What I know of God are the footsteps of his absence. Isn't that beautiful? Write it down, record in your heart. What I know of God are the footsteps of your absence. It seems contradictory. What I know of God is what is absent from him. It is what, in the interval between what I have already known and what I do not yet know, and prevails a mystery in this interval. It is this mystery that leads me to God. Because if I based on what I already know about him, I would accommodate myself here, where I am man. I wouldn't make a next program. No. Looking at all that is absent, all that hurts me, I discover my alien with life. It is in this holy curiosity that I position myself as a man of faith. Viktor Frankl, a psychotherapist, who wrote a beautiful work on the meaning of life, he said that a human being, when he loses reasons for life, he stops fighting. And he experienced his thesis in the concentration camp. Before writing the thesis, he lived. He noted in the Nazi concentration camp that friends who had no family members to return, who already knew they were dead, they surrendered to the process of slavery without any hope. And he doesn't. He wanted to remain alive, even without knowing if there was someone waiting for him. What he does, put a little plant in the window and set a bond with I need to live so that this little plant doesn't die. And so he created the psychology of the meaning of life. When he says that when we are connected to one reason, we do not die, then you will be able to go through all the quarries of life, all the pyrambars of life, all the slopes and the most difficult climbs. And you will not be discouraged, because you have a reason. You have a meaning to remain alive. What moves me is faith. It is the territory in which I put my foot, and God mysteriously puts the ground. I have no ground to step. I just have my foot to put there. And it is mysteriously that God puts a floor over my feet. This is faith. When you, at the time of your pain, when life was heavy and you couldn't walk alone, you dare to put your foot. God put the floor. This is faith. It is the opportunity we have to live boldly, because this is bold, my people, and not a religious boldness. See? This is a human boldness. Psychology proposes the same thing that religions propose. In fact, psychology has learned to us that those who do not dare to investigate the mysteries of the heart will never be able to live the contemplation that this is possible. That's when I contemplate myself and I get ecstatic at what I find. I don't understand almost anything, but I'm ecstatic. And that's the challenge. You look at what is absent you, what you don't have yet, and don't realize in that a frustration, but to realize that a motivation, a desire that takes you forward. As St. John said, what we know of God are the footsteps of his absence. It is what is absent today, which you do not have yet, which makes you want to wake up tomorrow and continue this Christmas that never has an end. It is renewing hopes in life and, most importantly, believing you again. Did you suffer a lot in this period? Cried a lot? It was soul cleaning. Did you get angry at people? It was to forgive them one day? Did you feel only several times? It is because you closed the door to the angels. Believed that all was lost. It was the beginning of your improvement. Yeah, now it's time to restart. To think of the light. To find pleasure in the simple things again. How about a bold, different haircut, a new course, or that old desire to learn to dye, draw, master the computer, or anything else? Look. How much challenge. Look how much new thing in this world of my God waiting for you. Are you feeling alone? Nonsense. There are so many people that you have gone away, that you pushed with your isolation period. There are so many people waiting for only one smile of yours to get close. When we locate ourselves in sadness, we don't even endure ourselves. We were horrible. The bad mood is eating our liver until the mouth is bitter. Restart. Today is a good day to start new challenges. Where do you want to get? Go loud? Dreams loudly. Want the best of the best. Want good things for life. Thinking like this, we bring us what we want. If we think small, little things we will have. Already, if we wish strongly the best, and especially fight for the best will settle in our lives. And it is today, the day of mental cleaning. Throw away everything that holds you to the past, to the world of sad things, photos, pieces of clothing, bullet paper, movie tickets, travel tickets, and all of that junk we keep when we think they are in love. Throw it all out, but mainly empty your heart. Stay ready for life to find love again. Remember, we are in love. We are always able to love and be loved. To love many times, many people. After all, we are love. Because I am the size of what I see, and not the size of my height. It is with great joy, and with this poem, that I do not know. In fact, it is not a poem, a text. I found on the internet the other day. I found it very simple. But it's so direct, so capable of really telling us simple things, that to those times we are even used to listening. I always like to say that sometimes the word that transforms our life is not the ordinary word. It is that ordinary word said at the right time and the right way. Because sometimes we have heard it many times. A motivating text, as you have so often had the opportunity to have contact on Facebook or someone telling you. An email you receive. Unknown authors, because these texts sometimes arrive signed by the Drummond de Andrade. But it was not he who wrote. Just to give authority to the text, sometimes people put a known author. It is a text that anyone could have written the moment they thought one's own life. The dynamics of life itself. Even if you don't be illiterate, you may have already thought all this there. But suddenly that word dictates at the right time. When you hear that at the right time, it has a transforming power over us impressive. This cleaning that the unknown writer proposes to us with this text called The Start serves on us at this time when we look at each other's death. We think ours. In philosophy, we learn that the only way we have to experience death before we die, of course, because death is the event that we will, in fact, know what it is to die, is at the moment. Fat people die. There is no other way to experience personal death but dying. So how will this be the definitive act? I anticipate this experience when I look at those who die by my side, because somehow we look at those people who are gone. It is a way you have, to look at your death is in the one who dies. It is an impact on us. The death of others impacts us. And when you feel this impact, It is natural that you also spend your clean life. Ah, priest. But you also take the daily risks. Life is dangerous. It is always dangerous. Living is dangerous, as Guimarães Rosa said in the introduction of his great Certain Veritas. Living is dangerous. It is always a battle. It is always a daily struggle for us to survive. I will cross the street, I risk being run over. I will take a car. I go to the road. I risk having an accident. Everything is dangerous. But I don't talk about this danger that you... It's not to become a neurosis in us. We need to live with good faith, right? The first experience of faith we do is this. It is natural, not a supernatural experience. I trust the other. I trust the bus driver. I trust the subway driver. I trust the plane pilot. I trust the baker. Because at no time will you buy a bread suspicious that he put a poison on bread, which he poisoned that mass, and that he wants to kill everyone that day. We trust people. You open a jar of candy, you eat. Don't go through your head the possibility of that sweet being poisoned. It is part of good faith. It is the most natural faith we experience in life, which is the one that gives you the conditions to go out towards your mother's lap when you still don't know how to walk and take the first steps. This faith that forwards us and makes us live life without clear neurosis. There are people who need to be treated, right? At a certain moment of life that is so afraid of dying, usually when we are experiencing a very good time in life, people often develop this phobia, the fear of death. So then you need to administer even with medicines to return to live naturally. But this cleaning, it goes beyond these daily realities. It enters the deepest of the meaning of our lives. This is where we need to remove the excesses so that we are able to extract what really matters. Because we all want to be happy. Sometimes we are not happy is because of the wrong choices we make. And when I speak of happiness, I'm not talking about the absence of problems. This is utopian. This does not exist. I am talking about the possibility that we live comfortable in us, of you looking at the life you are living and you are satisfied with the result you are having. It is possible. Our vocation is this. It is not having an extraordinary life. Because sometimes we look at the famous people, we talk, wow. What an extraordinary life must have that person. Anything. When she comes home, when she is alone with her, with the people who are part of her world, that is absolutely ordinary, like everyone's life. The stages are not eternal. That movie star you see shining on the screen, look what happened to him. A man who won Oscar, a man who has won numerous awards throughout his life, and suddenly cannot manage the unhappiness of the moment, or could not manage the scene, because it is also dangerous. No one is free from losing the meaning of life, and I particularly think it can be for me, for you, an opportunity for us to review what we are doing in our lives. Sometimes we run too much. Sometimes we expose ourselves to a context of such need. Perhaps it is at a time when people will need. We are living a time when people will need to simplify their lives. Such the complexity of the world. The world is increasingly complex, my people. Because the more it makes our lives easier, the more complex it gets, because it generates possibilities. A world that offers many possibilities to human being of displacement, possibilities for knowledge, entertainment. It becomes increasingly complex. It is not a simple world we had 100 years ago, where you had to take a trip to arrive in Europe. You would take 10, 12 days of ship. Not today. 8 hours by plane, you were there. You land in Portugal. These facilities complete our lives, because the more we can, the more complex we get. And when we are very complex, we get lost in the context of choices. We have difficulty finding what is essential. Because the one who can much, he runs a serious risk of not choosing what he really needs. Because between what we can and between what we really need, there is a great distance. And only wisdom makes us recognize, in the midst of all that I can, what I really need. That's where two say we need to do the cleaning, because of the excesses that are part of us.
As we conclude this spiritual exploration on Path of Faith, we invite you to engage with us by leaving your comments, liking this video, sharing it with others, and subscribing to our channel for regular doses of uplifting messages.